All right, we are live. Dana, welcome to the future of fitness.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
It's always a pleasure. I enjoy our conversations often, and I always learn something from you, man.
Well, I'm happy that I can contribute to that. I always think back, like, was that good for him, or did he just see right through all the bullshit I was giving, or what's going on? So I'm glad you also educate me, so that feels pretty good. That it's two-way street.
Yeah. Well, either way, we're gonna have a lot of fun right now. I'm excited for the topics. We'll get into your kind of career trajectory. I was looking over some of your LinkedIn history. I'm like, okay, this guy's been around the industry for a little while. He's seen some things, a lot of experience. And, you're leading the charge for the North American efforts for eGym. And every time I seem to turn around, eGym's in the news for something, whether it's raising a bunch of money to fueling a new concept like Fred Fitness, to artificial intelligence, to you name it, winning awards, right? There's always something you guys are doing as most innovative or just making moves. And it's cool. It's really fun to watch. I think it's great for the industry. You oversee, like I said, the North American efforts. And I think there's a lot of, with having such a strong foothold in Europe, I think there's still a lot of insights that people can glean about what eGym is exactly, not just the brand and the technology you guys have, but the side of Wellpass, the AI component of Genius, the open ecosystem you guys have. And I'm excited to talk about, excited is the wrong word. I'm interested to get your insights on tariffs because I think this year an unwanted buzzword across the industry is going to be tariffs. So with all that being said, Dana, if you don't mind, just give us a little bit of your background, man. How did you get to be the general manager of eGym?
Yeah, so I stumbled into fitness by accident. I had previously been in manufacturing, head of a division, doing some M&A work, and literally was gone for 46 of 52 weeks. And, it was exhausting. And at the end of it, luckily I was able to transition, and I was, home for a week, and a buddy of mine who was a headhunter called me up and said, "Hey, if you ever going to get off your butt and get back to work?" And I'm like, "Let me catch my breath, Rick." And he's like, "Well, I have this opportunity. It's weird. You probably won't listen, but let me just tell you." And he's like, "This Gold's Gym group." Well, I'm like, "Okay, I worked out, but fitness?" He goes, "Just meet him." And so I ended up meeting John Hamilton, who was the head of the Gold's Gym group that I eventually joined. It was clear when I met him that how we fit together was really good. It's my strengths, and they were looking to grow at the time. So I came on board. It was really community based because we had, locations right in the communities that I was in and, where I lived. And so that felt really good as a differentiator. And then over time, we grew to another location, and then that long-term expected growth kind of didn't materialize. Well, one of the things that I did while I was there was bring ABC Financial on, or ABC Fitness now, but it was Financial back then, on as our MMS provider, and created a great relationship with those guys and with Paul Schaller, I was CEO then. And Paul and I had some conversations about joining ABC. And so, things came together, and I went over there as a senior vice president, client management, which was a fantastic job because I got to see so many different fitness facilities and everything from the biggest to the smallest. Operators were doing amazing things. Operators were just serving the community in different ways. And it was a super cool job, and we had a great team and a ton of fun. And I left there to move back to Seattle because I moved from Seattle to Little Rock, Arkansas. I moved back to Seattle, helped a friend for a 2-year stint, bring his business back from bankruptcy and that kind of stuff. And then I had an opportunity to become the CEO of InTouch Technology, which was pioneering CRM in the fitness space. So back into fitness, led that for a while. And then John Ford and I, we lived very close to each other in Seattle, started having these lunch and learns maybe from each other. And, John kept planting the seed. And eventually he's like, "Hey, you should come aboard, have some things I want to do, and become chief product officer," which he is now for eGym. And that gave him the opportunity to join and take over leadership of North America. So that's how I got here. And March is, and the start of COVID is my 5th year anniversary with eGym.
It's an interesting anniversary gift.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. It really
I'll always remember it.
Yeah, right. Wow. Well, you guys have a great team. I really enjoy what you guys are doing. Very, very smart. Fun to talk to. I always enjoy running into the eGym folks at an event. It's great. So let's start with this. First on the docket, I want to talk about Wellpass and how eGym and Wellpass are one and the same, but different. Maybe you can shed some light to those of us from North America. How does that whole thing work? What is that relationship?
So I this is my description. I probably, Philip and others might have better descriptions, but Wellpass really for me is Match.com for companies and fitness facilities. And so what Wellpass has done incredibly successfully over in Europe is build a network of companies that where their employees can plug into the Wellpass network from an operator perspective. So two really big sides of the Match.com theory, corporations and companies to fitness facilities, right? And essentially it allows companies to offer a benefit to their employees that if they join the Wellpass network, they get access to the clubs that are in the Wellpass network. And so companies are incentivized to offer those to particular employees, right? And create a real benefit for them that the employees then can choose which different locations and the operator get paid for those visits. So it benefits the operators because they're getting new employees or new members, right? Or new traffic and new revenue stream. And it benefits companies because it creates this benefit that their employees love and take advantage of. So that's how I see it. I think from an operator perspective, it's a great way to drive new traffic into your clubs and drive new revenue streams. So that I think that's a huge benefit of it. That's just a general basic. That's how it works. The stronger than, and it's throughout Germany or the DACH region for us, France, the UK, and now we've started to bring Wellpass here in North America, in Denver, which is where our North American headquarters are.
And out of curiosity, when you look at the market, if competition, you could call it that, it'd be probably ClassPass, right? Something along those lines, or a WellHub or one of those. How do you guys differentiate in that arena?
Well, I think ClassPass is more B2C, right? So they're offering to consumers the ability to go to different locations. So I think they're a different model than we are. WellHub is similar. I think the thing from as a former operator, the thing that was always looking for was the ability to get more new members or new traffic and new revenue streams into my club, right? And so I think that's what Wellpass does very, very well. And they do it by building this large network of companies that can drive their employees in there, right? So I think when you think about WellHub, they're probably the most similar competitor, but I think there are some things that we do differently, building really strong networks on both sides, driving real value for the clubs, right? So we deliver based on, either visits or one-time visits, real value that doesn't cannibalize the revenue that people have from members, but it builds on that. So I think there are some differences for sure, but that would be the closest competitor.
And Dana, what is the relationship to eGym? Is it that eGym technology and the data flows seamlessly to Well? How does that partnership work?
Well, I think it's evolving, right? And I think we are starting to see ways for us, for the two businesses to work together. But clearly, one of the things that we do, because we know that members who are using our gym technology, our technology group, are creating greater outcomes. So one of the things that we're trying to do is marry the two of them so that Wellpass members understand what clubs have Gym Pass, because then they can be driving their technology and they have the hyper-personalization, the data collection and the outcomes and all the benefits that our technology drives to individual members. But then also we're able to show operators that are using the technology or technology products how we can bring members to them. Right. So we're starting to continue to work more and more closely together to leverage both sides of the business. One, to drive new revenue and new members through the door, Wellpass members through the door for the operators, but then also making sure that the Wellpass members are exposed and benefit from the technology that's within clubs that have our product.
When you talk about the technology, the open ecosystem, this always kind of surprises me. This move that you guys make, is that, if I'm getting this right, and please clarify for me, is you can have whatever kind of equipment you want in your gym, or at least whatever's in your partner's sphere, but you can still leverage eGym technology. Is that right? You don't have to have eGym equipment necessarily, or you can have one component or a piece of it, or it all kind of blends together. Like, what am I missing there? Clarify that for me. How's the ecosystem?
So, well, we'll probably, this will all probably lead into the discussion around Genius and what we're doing there and how that works and how they pull it all together. But I think, and this is one of the things that I think Philip and, the folks early on in eGym did an amazing job of recognizing that what we do better than anybody else, we feel like, is first of all, the smart strength technology and equipment, right? They didn't try to become, another provider of cardio manufacturing, right? Another cardio piece. They didn't try to become wearables. Like they said, look, this is what we want to be. And now what we want to do is go out and partner with best of breed and let the operators, and sometimes in the case of wearables, as an example, let the members decide what they think is the best wearable, right? Like I wear an Apple Watch, but other people like Strava and Garmin. And so the approach is let operators and members use what they want to use, what they believe is best of breed for them or best of class, and then say, we want to partner with them. We will partner with, the Lifes and the Precors and the Core and Matrix and all the other manufacturers who do what they do so well. And ultimately, what we want to build up is an ecosystem that allows operators to choose who they use for certain solutions, but then allow members to benefit from those choices and their own choices by pulling in data from wearables and things like that, and create a best of class ecosystem that allows all of those to work together. Core of it is the eGym ecosystem and our fitness hub and our smart strength equipment, but then it connects to we have over 200 plus partners. So connect to other, and we're connected in with the membership management software system. So we can, through our APIs, push data back and forth. So there's lots that we can do with the open ecosystem that's powerful. At the end of the day, operators tend to have preferences on who they like to work with. Some people like to work with Life. Great. That's a partner of ours. Matrix, Precor, MyZone, et cetera. All those people, we let them make their choice, and then we integrate into the ecosystem.
Maybe paint me a picture, Dan, like when this whole thing works out the way that you guys want, like the vision that you guys have for Genius AI and this ecosystem, from the consumer member standpoint, what is that experience like? Like what's it going to be like when this whole thing is implemented the way you want?
So I think the notion of creating these partnerships and this open platform is really the foundation that would allow us to come to Genius, right? And the fact that while we are known as a manufacturer of the smart strength equipment, what we really are is a technology provider, right? We provide software and technology. And I think that's really important to how we got to where we're at, right? I'm a user of Genius because we have a 4,200 square foot boutique studio in downtown Denver. It's 2 blocks from my place. And I come in the morning and I work out using Genius. So I'll describe my experience as a member, right? We have loaded all of the inventory, and it's only 4,200 square feet. So it's not like every piece of equipment that you possibly could, but we load in when we go to a gym, we load in all the inventory of that gym, whatever they have, whether it be selectorized, free weights, barbells, whatever they have. And then based on questions that we ask, like, what is your workout experience and level? What are you trying to achieve? Like, are you trying to lose weight, trying to gain muscle, whatever that is? So the old PAR-Q questions that us old timers talk about, we kind of ask those, right? We ask, what do you like to do? What do you don't like to do? I have bad hips and knees, and if I run too much on a treadmill, it's hard to get up in the morning and walk around. So I exclude that. So we're asking these kind of questions to get all the way down to the individual member's preference. Once we get that, then we're using the eGym equipment to test your strength, to measure your metabolic rate, create a bio-age for you, right? Metabolic, strength, cardio, flexibility. And once we gather all that data on an individual member and they give us preferences, then we push start on Genius, and Genius goes out and creates a training plan for you based on what you want to do that is specific to you as an individual. So what it usually does for me is first thing I come in the morning, it's having me do stretches, a little older than a lot of people, tend to be more inflexible. So it's like, we got to get you to do a couple stretches to get this thing started. So we'll do that. And then it'll start to mix in. Like if I've changed this around, but I currently am doing a full body workout. So I do that 3 times a week. And so it'll walk me through. I might do an eGym piece of equipment. Then I might go over and do, a barbell bicep curl. And so it'll move me around and use not only the eGym equipment, but all the other pieces, or potentially the other pieces in the facility that address the workout that you're trying to do. So I'll come in, do some movements and stretching, and I'll start down my strength, and I'll use both eGym equipment and selectorized and dumbbells and barbells to do the workout. It also will do, so one of the things that I come in and I say, I have about 45 minutes in the morning to do a workout. It gives me 45 minutes of exercise because it'll show me a timer and all that. Mixes in cardio, right? So if the particular day, they'll give me 10 minutes cardio and elliptical, whatever. So it is basically my workout that I follow 3 times a week. What's super cool about it, more than anything, is it learns. So I went from being able to do that. I had major shoulder surgery and I had to go into rehab mode. Nothing below, I can do all the leg exercises and core and all that I wanted to, but anything with my shoulders, I had to change. So I went into rehab mode. So it knows that and has changed what it prescribes me based on the areas that I have to protect, like my shoulder. So, and it just learns and gets better. One of the things that is so cool about the ecosystem, my perspective, is what we call the reassessments. So you get assessed up front, it creates plans, and then it reassesses you so that you're constantly progressing. And ultimately then, because it's AI and it's learning so fast, as we all know, the hyper-personalization to me as a member, I love it. And that's the power of open ecosystem, 200 plus partners, plus Genius on top of it, leveraging AI. It's amazing. I love it.
You mentioned too, Dana, that wearable data. So is that being fed in and then used like for contextual programming? Like, how's that working to the equation?
So you get, it feeds in and it will support the BioAge. So from cardio, if I do cardio, it'll eventually feed into my BioAge. So it looks at what I'm doing. Because AI is so powerful, let's say that your plan, these are some of the things that we're bringing to the table. Not quite there yet, but let's say your plan is half-hour cardio and you rode your bike and it was 20 minutes, right? If you pull in from Apple Health or Garmin or any of those, eventually you'll get credit for that, and then it'll adjust and it'll be 10 minutes instead of 30, and those kinds of things that we can do because we're attached in the ecosystem, right? Because we're just sharing data over very strong APIs within our ecosystem that benefits, that we learn from, the ecosystem learns from, and then pushes back education and hyper-personalization to the members on their workouts.
Is it all done through an app? Like, how is it actually delivered?
Yeah. So we have our branded member app, right? We have a trainer app. So we have 2 ways that we do this from our app perspective, right? And so there's clubs that use our branded member app, and there's clubs that don't. And we also have ways that we can feed Genius back into their apps as well. So but most people kind of live in their phone. And so we know that. And so we're utilizing apps to communicate the workouts.
It's so wild how fast AI has become ubiquitous, right? Like what, 3 years? Really? When did ChatGPT launch? Was it 2 years ago?
2+, right?
2+, like between 2 and 3
years ago, but yeah.
Yeah. Ish. It doesn't matter. Like that acceleration through, we keep calling it, like we call it, like we talk about Genius AI, we're like it. And it's at some point, it's just going to become a who, which is really bizarre to me. Maybe I read too many Jack Carr novels. But it's like, it's going to have a voice. It's going to have an image. It's going to be a female or a male. It's just going to be a friend of ours. And it's really interesting. And if you're going to say with your team, like how much manpower and energy do you guys have going towards AI? Like it's happening so fast, right? It's accelerating so quickly. Like if you're going to put your R&D department, like what percentage do you think is attributed to AI, to artificial intelligence?
So this is specifically a question for our CPO.
Okay.
Chief Product Officer John Ford. He could tell you the percentage. What I will tell you is that we invest more in R&D than any other company in the industry. It's like we just do, right? 30 million plus. Big focus for us. So I don't know percentage, but I can tell you a big focus for us is how AI can help us deliver really prescriptive and hyper-personalized workouts, either through trainers or through staff at a facility or to members directly. A big piece of our brain power goes towards how we continue to evolve AI and our ability to really get hyper-personalized down to the operator and the member. Percentage-wise, I'd have to see if John would share that with me, but I can tell you from the conversations that we have as a company, it's a big part of the power that we're committing right now.
Yeah. It's substantial. And to me, that's the big promise of artificial intelligence within our sphere, right? It specifically is very inexpensive hyper-personalization of health and fitness, like in wellness overall, whatever you want to call it. Like that's the obvious path that we're going towards. And it feels like it's just a race to get there.
Yeah. And I mean, if we go back to what I said is that, I think of us as a technology company, right? Wellpass is a technology provider that matches, two sides of an important equation. Jim, our technology group for the fitness side, is a technology company that can push updates and upgrades and new things like Genius quickly and continue to evolve and all that. So as a technology and software driven company, I think AI is AI is where it's at. Honestly. And what's interesting, of course, is that AI scares people. Just saying AI scares people. But I don't think it has to be, because really what you were saying before about how it can help and how it can accelerate the impact that we as fitness professionals can have on individuals and their outcomes. Why wouldn't we use it to accelerate our ability to impact and deliver better results on what we do and what we want, the outcomes we want? So I think it's going to be huge to see what it does over the next year, 2, 3 years. It'd be amazing. It's
a wild time to be alive, Dan. It really is. Like this is all, it's all happening so fast. And, it's all stuff that when I was a child, I would just dream that we'd be talking to robots and I'd be, my research assistant would be $30 a month and have more knowledge than I could possibly dream of and be faster than ever, right? Ever imagined. It's bananas.
Yeah, there's this weird, I think, and I always forget the name of it, but there's this weird movie that Tom Cruise was in, where he would up in front of him in his face, he'd pull up something and he'd just be moving stuff with his fingers and, and then he'd jump in this, car and be Minority Report. And when I saw that, I'm like, that's super cool. I'll be long gone before anything like that's even possible. Someday, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, that's probably the world they'll live in 3000 and whatever. And I'm not so sure it's that far away, because some of the stuff that we're able to do now and AI's positive impact is happening now.
Yeah. It's wild. There's an existential threat. We don't have to talk about that here. That's for a different type of podcast, but
yeah,
it's something we have to be aware of and realize that with any great opportunity for progress and just general opportunity to push humanity forward, there's going to be risk. And we don't have to get on that today, but one of the things I want to ask you about, and maybe this is a question for Philip, but you can glean some insights. When investors look at you guys, because you guys just had a huge round that you closed 3 months ago, 4 months ago, did they look at you guys as a fitness company or did they look at you as a technology platform? Like I would imagine the latter is much more beneficial for investor dollars, right?
Yeah. And I think again, that's what makes eGym so special. I think it's not, certainly we leverage technology to drive fitness solutions, right? And drive fitness outcomes. No question. But I think when they see a technology platform, an open platform system that's going to drive data, right? So data is part of what we do, but definitely a technology platform. And I think that's what we've embraced internally. Like that's what we see as kind of the overall leadership team, both with Philip and his, the C-suite and, guys like me that are, next level down. I think we see ourselves as a technology company. And I believe that's reflected in the investment that we're getting.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. When you talk about like your entry point into North America, like we stated before, like in Europe, eGym is very solid, right? A leader in the market. What's unique and different about North America? Like, what are some of the challenges that maybe you didn't see in Europe that you're facing? Any company, what as they enter the North America?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things I think is that this notion of, smart electronic strength equipment, that's been around in Germany. Like that's consistently been there. And so I think the European continent embraces it a little bit more because it's more of a familiar thing. In North America, there was a pretty big gap before Philip brought eGym over. Because if you remember way back, Life had a similar type, not quite the same product, but they had a similar concept. And then, that kind of went away because maybe it was a little bit before its time. And then there was a gap. And then in comes eGym to reintroduce it and really drive it. So I think there's been an education component to it. Like, what is this? I always say, what is eGym? What's it about? What's smart strength? There's still was that what, but I think we're kind of to the point now where it's more why would I do this? Why will, right? Why is it going to be good for me now? Why will it differentiate me? I think we're in way more into that in those conversations, and we're moving into the how. So, okay, I know what it is. I know why I should do it in a lot of cases. Now it's like, okay, how can I do it? How can I apply it to my business? How can I apply it to my operating model? And how will the ecosystem support and help me grow and all that? I think we had to do some of the what first, and now we're kind of into the why. And I think that was the challenge at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, you look at what you guys are doing at Fred Fitness, which is really interesting. And maybe you can talk about that. I think that's super. Alex Alaministano we just did a quarterly report not too long ago. Yep. And he was just visiting when he was in LA and he was very impressed. He was like, very cool. So maybe tell us about that, what that means and kind of this model that you guys are creating with that particular brand as a partnership.
Yep. Yeah. What's interesting is that the genesis for Fred was actually kind of started in Germany. So Fred is the owner of Clever Fit, right, which is a franchise group over there. He and Philip, as we've grown with business over in DOC, he and Philip obviously got to know each other really well. And they started thinking about, okay, what would a brand look like that was built all around eGym? And so they started that conversation. And then Fred really wanted to come to North America, right? He really wanted to build up a brand in North America. And so the notion that it would be an eGym ecosystem only, that's how it started. And then they came over and started looking at places where it would make sense. LA, Santa Monica, the cool new stuff, technology driven, data driven, kind of was a natural fit. And they found an amazing location. And if you've seen any of the pictures or anything that they've shown on TV, it's a beautiful location.
Oh, it looks super
the idea is really to provide people with an incredible upfront assessment, get them engaged in the eGym ecosystem. We partner with Matrix on the cardio there and really leverage the full power of the eGym ecosystem to drive outcomes. And they have it built so that you can do assessments and reassessments and constantly find ways to push people forward. Because, fitness and appearance and health and all that is an important part of the LA market. Obviously, we all know that as Americans. And so I think they found a great location, found a great concept, and we're excited to see how it grows in other markets and how it has a major impact on members. So it's super cool what they're doing. They're a great partner and they're as enthusiastic as we are about them. They're as enthusiastic about eGym and our ecosystem and what we can deliver.
What a great way to kind of show a forward-facing model, right? And I think with this North American market too, it's my words, not yours, but eGym is obviously the future of what strength training and the health club experience will be. It's inevitable, right? This is where technology going, artificial intelligence, you guys are out there. I think our market tends to be a little slow to adopt for fear of being the first one out. Once again, my words, not yours, but I tend to see that, right? After 16, 17 years in the industry that, once someone kind of big adopts and then another one adopts and everyone's on board. So it's like, I feel like it's going to go, all of a sudden things are going to break loose for you guys and it's going to be extremely busy in this market.
Yeah. I mean, we think so. I've been on podcasts and panels, and I've made known how I think the North American market is slow to adopt technology and new things. And I think that's true. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to find a way to break through. I also think Fred Fitness is a great example of the original problem that was being solved by eGym, right? Was beginners, people returning to fitness, the deconditioned, an amazing product, solve that problem so well, right? But then the recognition is that there's all kinds of members, right? So we say fitness for everyone, but that's only a portion of the members. And so what we've been able to do, and again, led by John and his team, is really begin to expand the ecosystem, the capabilities and functionality of what we're able to do to really now not only still solve problems for beginners and people who have never done strength training. They may be fit, but strength training is something they've never done, to get them on board and get them strength training, because everyone should be doing it. And it's a great thing for everyone. We probably won't get a chance to talk about GLP-1, but solving that problem, making sure that strength training is part of that solution is critical. But now we're out and we're impacting athletes. We have partnerships with the University of Colorado, the Washington Commanders. We're impacting fit people. So we are now truly, and Fred's a great example of this, able to deliver solutions and outcomes to a full range of people that are in gyms with operators.
Awesome. One question, I guess I have to bring it up because we talked about it in the beginning, but tariffs, dude. We're recording right now in Q1 of 2025, and new administration in the White House. Things are dynamic, I guess you could say, fluid. Maybe
fluid,
good way to describe it. But what is your mindset going into what is going on with the potential tariff wars and how eGym is going? Like how are you positioning this? How are you guys doing?
Yeah. When you asked me this question earlier, I thought I should just tell them no, I don't want to talk about it. But
we're in now.
Because I think, I don't think anybody really knows.
Right. They don't.
Oh, Jason Bridges, who's our chief manufacturing officer, was here a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him this question because, him and his group are really responsible for driving all this stuff, right? And, he's like preaching patience and making sure that we're doing the right things as a general fundamental approach, right? So fundamentally, we're looking at planning 1, 2, and 3 years out. And so if you're doing a really good job of that, some of this will come out in the wash. The other thing is, don't panic. I think that was the first thing he said to me. He goes, well, whatever it is, don't panic. Because I don't think like chasing yesterday and today's news is really going to get a strategy that's going to work right now. And so I think it's don't panic, continue to plan really, really well. Yes, be very, very on top of it and aware of what's happening. But it's almost like this too shall pass in some ways, and there's no way to really know what's going to happen. I mean, what is said today will be changed tomorrow. 6 months from now, it could look totally different. So be really fundamentally sound is how we approach things. We approached that during COVID. And when we came out of COVID, one of the best things that we were able to do is we were able to deliver our products on time because we did the right fundamental things. We had the right amount of inventory. We were able to continue to build quickly. We look at this the same way. Be fundamentally sound, constantly be looking at ways to not only improve your inventory position and your cost position, but also continue to look at your products to find other ways that we can evolve the product, simplify it, whatever we need to do to continue to control cost and improve our position in that. So I don't think there's one answer to the tariff craziness, but don't panic. I thought when Jason said that, I kind of chuckled and thought, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so an announcement happens from the White House, then things go into enactment, and then there was a response. And like, by the time all of these things happen, there's a long tail effect. We have no idea what's actually going to happen at the end of that. Right. Yep. So I think you're right. That's all you can do is just don't panic.
Well, and I think if you've put, which we have not, and I think this is one of the benefits, this is one of the important things. If you've put yourself in a position where the week to week back and forth in a trade war impacts you that much, then you probably you were in a bad position a year ago, right? That's not how we approach it, right? Trade war is going to be a trade war. How it ends up, we don't know. But I think we are careful enough and smart enough to plan far enough ahead that we're going to navigate it pretty well.
Awesome. Dana, as we wrap it up, the question I always ask at the end is, how can we help you? And what I mean by that is, as an industry, what do you need help with right now? If people are going to reach out to you, what would you like to hear from them about?
Yeah, I think the how, going back to what I said, right? The how, like, how can Wellpass help you, right? How can Wellpass help you with new revenue streams, with new Wellpass members? Because I think that's really, like, I remember as an operator, every day, first thing in the morning, what did we talk about? Well, how many memberships did we sell? What's our growth? What's our net for the month? Like, that's a really, really important, like, that's the blood, right? You gotta feed operators blood. And I think that's Wellpass. So ask us about how Wellpass can help you do that, and what we see and what our vision is for that. But then how can our technology and our ecosystem really impact your operations to continue to drive improved performance, but then ultimately improve engagement with members, right? And because I think that's what everybody wants, better outcomes, right? And for the industry, we've talked 20 years how, we're going to solve the health crisis. Well, the way to solve the health crisis is to make members healthier. And I think, come talk to us about how we can help you do that while we're improving staff efficiency, while we're improving, overall performance. I love to talk to operators. That was one of the best parts of my job at ABC, going back when I mentioned that, was seeing all the different operating models and then thinking about how eGym can help utilize our ecosystem to drive real outcomes for the operators and the members.
I love it.
Come ask me how. I'd love to talk to you about it. So whatever.
Okay. And how do people get a hold of you, Dana? Where would you like them to go?
So come to HFA next week. We are booth 1203. We'd love to spend time with you there. We're going to show Genius and some of the other innovations that we do, which we innovate. That's one of the best parts about this company. We innovate all the time. So we are constantly looking at how we're making things better. So HFA booth 1203. Also Dana, DANA .Milkie, MILKIE at eGym.com are probably the two easiest ways to get a hold of me in the next week. And then after that, cell phone 206-601-8971.
I like it.
Yeah.
The old cell phone delivery, old school. This will probably be fair. This will probably publish after HFA. I don't think I have time to sneak this one out there.
Okay.
But you guys are at all the major trade shows, FIBO, HFA, you name it. You guys are out there. And plus you have a showroom in Denver, right? So if people really want to get after it, they can show up there.
Denver's my new hometown. We moved here, my wife and I, 2 years ago. We absolutely love it. I think it's a great city to visit, and we'd love to host people here. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Great.
Awesome. Well, Dana, thank you. Thank you to the whole eGym team, Philip, Sean, John, Emily, everybody who's helped make this interview a thing. So it's been a pleasure. And Dana Milkie.
I can't leave without thanking you for the partnership, because I think we've had a really good partnership, and some of it's just, just shooting the shit and back and forth and talking, sharing industry stuff. Some of it's more formal like this, but I think I'll speak for everybody at eGym when we really enjoy the partnership and the ability to continue to work back and forth. And, hopefully I think us and you want to advance the industry. I think that's why our partnership is so good and so strong.
I really appreciate that, man. I really do. And thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Dana Milkie.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Malzone.